Hey guys, Darren Carr here, coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to another episode of Trade Mode for Round 4. On today's episode, we are going to be quickly talking about all the trade targets you should be looking at for your team in the upcoming round in Round 4. Before I quickly get into the actual trade targets themselves, I wanted to quickly have a bit of a chat about strategy. So obviously, this week is the last week of Best 18 Round 4. Obviously, we've got Essendon on the bye and we have the Hawthorn on the bye. So, not hugely relevant teams when it comes to, players that we have, but still, we're going to have some people on the bye. So, you're going to pretty much have a pretty strong team when it comes to it, but there's just a lot of talk in the fantasy community at the moment about a double downgrade this week. And there's arguments to say it's a great time to do it because, again, best 18, you can hide her up behind maybe running one less premium than what you would have otherwise by trading up to, a middle guy that you're eyeing off, or you're just not confident with someone who you can't get to those premium guys. So you don't really want to go to the halfway house and do that risky pick. So my thoughts on the double downgrade is probably follows along the rest of the community of content creators, is that it's hasn't really been proven to work at this stage. A lot of the previous winners, they've gone and said they've never done it. I know back in my 2023 year when I won, well, I went back to the records only recently just to confirm that I did not do a double downgrade at all through the entire year. Even when I did, the two rookies that are 450k each down, I always found like a halfway home. Whether that was Hobbs, for example, back in my winning year was a good example. He was like 550k. I just went to him. He was up in the forward line and he just did the job for them, just to increase in price. So I just don't think it's the right thing to do. And I'm always trying to be one step ahead. And I think this is a perfect example of trying to get one step ahead, right? While everyone else is doing a double downgrade, I think it's time to attack and get that player to your best ability that you can to continue moving forward. Even if it isn't the greatest pick, you just got to find someone that's going to either go up in price and be a cash generator for you, like those mid prices that we've been targeting for the last couple of weeks. Because again, it is only week 3. We are still in sort of that phase of fixing up our teams, and now we can start to really focus on that upgrade season and get the best players in. So if you can be one step ahead and start getting those players in now, then you're in a great position. So that's sort of just where it becomes a bit team dependent, because again, a lot of us maybe have some issues. A lot like Riley Sanders is probably a good example of that. A Hollins, if you had him, a Perryman, I know a few people that held him through his bye. I know there's some speculation whether you want to even trade him or not anymore after he was named in the midfield last night. So, yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment, but my understanding of the double downgrade has never been something that I want to look at. I'm always trying to find a way to get the leg up on competition and trying to move forward. So, my plans this week are to really try and upgrade the best I can. So, yeah, I know a lot of people are looking at Moraes, if that's how you say it. I never get the names right. And Bice is the other one that a lot of people are looking at the moment. Both are highly traded in already. So I think it's completely acceptable to get Bice next week. He is only 280k at the moment. So if he has another decent game, he puts up a 70, to say that, he probably goes up, say, 70k. You can still grab him next week for 350k, which is completely in a reasonable section to grab him, and his break even is going to be even lower than what it is now. So whereas Moraes, in my opinion, he's already at 340k essentially. He's got the massive break even. He got up against St Kilda, so I think he's the one that you need to must grab this week, because after this weekend, he's going to be miles off in the distance. You're not going to be able to grab him. So he's going to be above 400k and be probably closer to 450k. And I think that's what's way too expensive to be paying up for those sort of rookies at the moment. So my sort of threshold when it comes to paying for rookies is no more than 400k. And that's probably even a bit of a stretch at that point. I'm still sort of adjusting to see how it sort of goes, because last year, when rookies were priced at 200, I didn't like to pay anything over sort of 300 to 350 was sort of that border range. It got a little bit uncomfortable. This year, because obviously the price is so it seems to be so much more dramatic. I've pushed it out a bit closer to 400 now, so yeah, I don't want to pay anything over 400. So that already prices out a few of the other players that a lot of people are considering, like a Max. Or yeah, I just don't think he's worth paying up for anymore because he is getting too expensive for the paying up for these, these rookies that can be dropped at any stage. So uh, yeah, that's just my opinion on some strategy. So now we can sort of get into what the main trade out targets are, and we'll go through them real quick here. I haven't had time to do my pop ups like I would normally do this week, so I'm just gonna read them out as I go. So this on what's on my notes on my phone. So sorry if I'm looking down a fair bit. But Will Day is the number one traded out target this week with 11.2k coaches trading him out, which is pretty surprising to me because I think it was pretty acceptable in the fantasy community that if you're holding him last week, you were holding him through for the next, however long until he's maxed out in price or he becomes a top 8 midfielder. Who knows what his ceiling could be. I don't think you should be moving on him anymore. He had his tag game. Yes, he's on his bye, but I think he's definitely one that you'd be holding on to because his run is a dream run after Port Adelaide in round 5. So you hold him for the next fortnight. Yes, he may drop a little bit of coin because he has a 91 break even. He probably just scores a regular 80 against Port Adelaide if he even cops a little bit of attention from Willem Drew, which is no certainty. They haven't been running that tag for a little while, so it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But again, at worst, he probably drops a 60, drops a little bit in coin, but then he goes on this dream run, which I can show you here on DFS. Is just probably the best thing that you can see for in this entire graph, to be honest. So 5 green matchups in a row. Yes, I've flagged that, Geelong may put some attention into him. That's if O'Connell was in the team. He probably does a bit of tag work. If not, it'll be a bit of a run roll with Atkins at most. Besides that, I don't see any other tags coming his way for a long stretch of time until the bye. So you can pretty much hold him to his bye is where I'd be at now if I still had Will Day. So I would not be trading him out. I think it's pretty plain and simple. Just hold him through, use him as a loop this week, and try and get the best rookies you can on field because, again, that is becoming a bit more increasingly difficult this week, particularly because Lindsay's obviously out, who has been a relying rookie on field for us. And I think we're all starting to have a few more rookies on field that are a bit more questionable than what we want at the moment. So I'd be using him as a loop and get the best rookies you can on field because guys like Camporelli, unfortunately, yes, he's a red dot. He's not coming back. He's not even named as emergency this week. He is not worth a loop at the moment because he is playing Thursday night this week. So he plays tomorrow night. So he is just going to be locked out instantly. So you can't even use him. So if you can get off Camporelli, I have no issues with that. Probably skipping over Lindsay there. But yeah, Camporelli, if you can get off him, I would definitely do that. It's just such an awkward price at this stage because he is only 309k. It doesn't really allow you to go up to too much. And that's where I would be trying to get to that halfway home. And I will go through a few of those options a bit later where you, depending on which line you're in, that could be a worthwhile pick for you for a little while longer. So Camporelli can definitely go. The probably is where I should say is that any of the red dot rookies at this point in time, if they're not sort of fringe best 22, 23 at this time, they can probably just go because there's so many rookie options that are on our lips at the moment that we could just grab easily that I'd just be doing it so simply. So yeah, try and do that. Lindsay is a different story in my opinion because he is listed as 1 to 2 weeks, as I said yesterday. If I can find it here in Melbourne, he is listed at 1 to 2 weeks. So at worst, he's going to be back in a fortnight's time. You think, he's been a highly doubted draftee for them, and he has played every single game, played high time on ground, hasn't been subbed out. So I think he instantly comes back in a fortnight's time. And there's even a chance that he comes back next weekend because Melbourne play the last game on that weekend, so next weekend in Gather Round. So maybe not the last game, but it is late Sunday, I believe. So there's every chance that he could be ready to go next weekend. So I'd be holding on to him there. Sorry, it's late Saturday. I was incorrect there. So it's still a late game for them either way. So there's still a chance that he is back. And like I said, he has so much more money to make, even though his break even is a little bit higher than what we wanted at the moment. I don't think it's worth trading him out. And then, he drops another 80 or a 90 when he comes back and plays whoever he's playing, probably Essendon or Fremantle. And then he goes into Richmond and Pies as well. Yeah, the run's too good to ignore, and he's such a highly doubted rookie that has shown he can score. Like, he was on 12 points within the first 2-3 minutes of that game. Uh, that you're gonna want him back. So is it worth trading him out now and then trading him back in a week or two time? I don't think so, because then you're pretty much neglecting all the cash generation that he's going to make for the rest of us. I always put a price on a trade out as 150k. So you're wasting two trades, so 300k of cash generation on getting him out and then in again, whereas he may only have 300k worth of cash generation to go for the rest of us. So I'm in the camp of holding him, or you're trading him and you're not looking back. So hope if you're trading him out, please be comfortable that you do not want to go back, because I don't think there's any benefit in coming back to him at all, because the rest of us again will be getting one step ahead of you by upgrading our team in other spots rather than grabbing a Lindsay back again. So I'm willing for him to sit on my bench for a week or two. With fingers crossed, obviously, he comes back. There is some doubt that he doesn't come back, because they do have some names coming back into the team, which is obviously, I'm trying to think of the names now. Caleb Windsor is coming back into the side, so he come back in this weekend. Obviously, Philstrup may come back next week as well. He has played a half forward role, so I just don't think they really affect his role as much. Maybe it pushes Lindsay back onto the wing instead of playing this halfback role, which is Caleb Windsor will play. But I still think Lindsay is going to be best 22 for them, because they're really crying out for a wingman at this stage with Langdon in the midfield. So I think his job security is fine, and he's one that I'll be keeping, and I do recommend other people do that as well. But I do see the appeal of trading him out, because he does have a lot of money in his head, and it does get you to those sort of top guys. And I have looked it up myself, but I'm restraining myself just knowing that it's only 1 to 2 weeks, and he's going to be that rookie that that could get away from you and could make or break a season. I remember last year particularly, I think it was, I'm trying to think of his name now, Darcy Wilson. I traded him out here fairly early, and he hurt my season so much. He went up so much more coin, just because he had a low break even. I think he got subbed out 1 week, and I just went, nah, my team's in a good enough position, I can move him on. He came back the next week and just killed it, and just continued killing it from then in our forward lines. And I was just losing points on points on points every single week. And I think this could be a very similar experience like that this year. So, yeah, do what you will, but I do not recommend trading out Lindsay. Similar with Jason Horne-Francis, and I have put a bit of thought into this, because I am having some doubts that he is going to be top 6 forward when it comes to the end of the year now, because there are some potential DPP action that's going to happen throughout this year that is going to bring in better players than a Horne-Francis, like a Petrarca. He instantly slots into that best 6 category. So when I'm thinking of the best 6 forwards at the moment, I'm without including Petrarca, I'm looking at Paddy Smith, Daniel, McRae obviously needs to be in there. Then I've got Rankin. Then it sort of gets a bit murky, because it's like, well, where else are you looking? That's where I throw in a Horne-Francis, and then I probably have a Sinkham in there at the moment as sort of that rolling best 6 at the moment. So it's questionable whether a Horne-Francis still stays within that pack. He's shown that he can be a 90 averaging player last year. He's just not performing at the standards that we're expecting at the moment. But we have seen patches of this in the past from him. He has always had this low patches of time on ground, and where he's just not scoring at his true potential, where he's just a bit sooky. I think he had 2 patches, particularly last year, where he was averaging 70, and then the rest of the season he was averaging well over 100. So I'm backing him to break the trend this week, and he's going to go much better against St Kilda. Good matchup again. I think he can hit that break even, so I'm backing him in to go well this week. Even though Butters is back potentially, I don't think it affects him too much. I still think he is one to worthwhile keeping. You paid up for him as a premium, so I'm backing him to be like a premium again and put up a decent score. So that's just my opinion. I understand the appeal of people trading off of him because, again, you can make a bit of money off of him to going from him to a Merrick or even paying up a little bit more to go a Rankin, who's obviously going up a lot in price. I just think there's other ways and other avenues I'd be doing those sort of moves and rather than moving a Horn Francis because it's a bit of a sideways trade in my opinion. So I'm looking to keep him and I haven't really even thought about moving him off him. So I'm treating him as a premium in any other line that we have. So that's just my philosophy. Riley Sanders, I do agree, he probably needs to go. He is definitely a problem child, even though he's been scoring okay, 72, 69, 73. He's gone up a little bit in coin, 15k through the year, but he's just a nothing pick, as I've said multiple times the last couple of weeks. He just isn't worth holding on to because he's not scoring well. His role is particularly bad. He's not playing any sort of midfield time at all. So I just don't see what the point of holding him is at the moment. So he can go if your team doesn't have many other issues, but he's still down the priority order in terms of I'd be prioritizing getting off these red top rookies if you have too many of them over Riley Sanders. Sam De Koning is another interesting one because if he is named as solo ruck again, well, dual ruck with Blitzarves, I'm a hold. I think he still has a little bit more money to make because, again, he's been scoring at a decent rate. Like, he did the one at 124, 73, and then did have the 66 on the weekend, but was subbed out in the early stages of that fourth quarter. So he was on track for, an 80, 85 if he had scored well in that last quarter. So I had no concerns with his scoring ability as this, 50% sort of ruck, right? But the concern is if Stanley comes back, as it has been flagged, that Geelong have mentioned this matchup, particularly against Max Gawn, that they may bring a Stanley back. So if Stanley is named, absolutely, Sam De Koning is a trade out. Simple as that. I'll be moving off him if that is the case. Because, again, he probably not going to hit that 54 break even. He probably gets thrown back into a key defensive role, if not a key forward role with Shannon Neal out this week, or as a test this week. So his role is going to be either a key back or a key forward. So either one is not inducive to fantasy scoring. So I'm not looking at holding on to him if Stanley is named. So he'll be out instantly. I do agree with that. But if he's not, then I'd be looking to hold on to him for one more week because he can still make a bit more money this week. If he puts up a solid 80 against Max Gawn, he's probably not going to get the many hitouts because we know Max Gawn is a great ruckman. But I think he can get him done around the ground, as we've shown. And he has sort of dropped off a little bit in terms of the marking around the halfback. We saw a lot in the particularly first two rounds where he was taking a lot of marks, chipping around halfback. But the last week particularly, he wasn't able to do that in a bit of a tougher matchup at the Gabba, tighter ground. So hopefully they can get that done. He can be solo ruck again this week and be worthwhile holding because he can still make, a little bit more money. So he's not an urgent trade out, but again, if Stanley is in, he'd definitely be one to move on. Just need to know more when teams come out tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that one. Kaku, yeah, it's a tough call because you started him. He hasn't made a huge amount of money. But yeah, essentially it is a failed rookie. He's not making money. So yeah, I don't mind jumping off him. It's his buy. It's perfect time to jump off him. So might as well. He's got a bit of money on his head. So if that extra bit of money from him rather than a Campo, I'd definitely be trading at him first. Even though he is best 22, I just don't know what he gets done. Finn O'Sullivan's, again, another interesting one that I've spoken about previously. Just, yeah, not getting it done in terms of his trade out, his price, cash generation. So, again, if your team's in that great of a position, hats off to you. That's amazing. But yeah, again, I'd be trading out the red dots before a Finn O'Sullivan just because he is making money. He is, playing at this point in time. Yes, it's a slow burn, but yeah, you expect him to hit that 26 pretty easily. So I'd be holding on to him unless you have nothing else to do. James Lee can go. Ollie Hollands should be the number one trader, but he is lowly owned at this stage. So probably something I should quickly mention is my top 5 trade outs. And that is Ollie Hollands. If you still have him, he's definitely one I'd be trading out. Similarly with this man, Harry Perriman, I still just think he's not worth holding on to, even though he is named in the guts this weekend. They have brought in an additional defender, so it may mean he may not play as a defensive midfielder this time. So I just don't think it's worth holding on to him. He's got a high break even, so what are you really expecting from him? He's gonna drop in coin again this week because I'm not expecting to hit 106. It's just, I think there's better options. I think he's got enough money on his head that you can sort of get to those top end guys pretty simply. Max Holmes, for example, is probably only 250k from him. If you have a bit of money in the bank, it makes it even easier. So I'd be trading him out if I can. He's been a failed pick. As simple as that. He's gone 49 in what was a midfield role, and then obviously played as a defender with a 43. So he hasn't shown enough for me to keep hold of him. I just think it's worthwhile trading him out. So that's my 1 and 2. Red Dot Rookies is number 3 there. Plain and simple, if you have too many red dots, I'd say anything 3 and above is probably when it starts to get a bit concerning. We've already got Lindsay as something that we've all locked into. Boyd is another one that, again, a lot of the community have, so it's already 2. Then you throw on Campo, and potentially we may even have the likes of Ted Closey if you jumped on him next week. So I'm looking at maybe having 4 red dots this weekend. So that's when I'm starting to get a bit concerned for my cash generation. So I'd be looking to jump off one of those guys before fixing up the rest of your team, like an SDK again, if Stanley's in, or even the likes of, who else did I have there? Sanders, even a Fraser. I know a lot of people are starting to look at him just with some concern. Mitch Nevitt is another one. Obviously, a lot of people are looking to trade him in this week, but I'm in the camp that if he's not named a sub, which we will know because it's Friday night, I'm looking at holding because he still has plenty of money to make. As we know, he's a great player. He knows how to tackle. It's a great matchup again against Melbourne, so I'd be in the space to hold him if he's not named a sub. So I wouldn't be trading him out there. Nick Martin, failed premium, dropping like a fucking stone with his price, gone nearly 100k already, as sort of predicted as well, because we know he was got to play this, what should we call it, mid wing sort of role, where he's just all over the ground, but just not scoring the way that we expect him to do. James Sicily, another failed defender pick, just been a nothing pick, so he can go. Elijah Hewitt, I think it's time for him to go because he was named as the sub last weekend. So he's stalled all his cash generation, and he's hasn't made any money, so it's been a bit of a failed pick. So he can go as well. Dylan Moore, Sam Lawler is an interesting one. I don't know why you'd be trading him out. I guess his cash generation has stalled a little bit, but still probably has a little bit more to make. I think the red dot rookies are probably a little bit more of a priority over a Lawler. But if you want to go 1 week early just to be able to get to that top end guy that you're really searching for, then I don't mind it. But I think I'll sort of leave it as it is. A couple of ruckmen, probably not looking to trade out Cherry. I know, depending if it comes out and says that he's injured and he's not playing this weekend, then absolutely. But Lloyd Meek, he can go. I don't see what the issue is with that. It's been a failed ruckman pick. Sam Taylor needs to go, obviously. Besides that, I think this becomes a bit too fragile for me. So, I think that's probably where we'll finish off with the trade-out targets. We'll now go to the trade-in targets. I've already spoken about the first 2 boys. I think Marias, if that's how you say it again, is the number 1 trade-in target. You just need to grab him with a massive negative break-even. This is pretty much going to be the last week you can grab him before he becomes too expensive. Bias, I said, you probably wait a week if you're not double downgrading as I recommended. You can pick him up next week for 350, if not 380, whatever it's going to be. I don't see him jumping up a huge amount in coin. That is going to be one that we can't grab next week. So make your plans to trade him in next week, is my opinion. So that's what I'm planning to do anyways. Rankin, obviously a great pick. I think he's definitely the number one forward to grab this week. Going up in coin, going to be a keeper for you. He's just looking amazing in that midfield role at this point in time and would be averaging over 110 if it wasn't for the subbed out game in round 2. So, yep, obviously a great pick there. Ryan Marrick is an interesting one to me. Obviously, has gone into this halfback role, playing as a sort of a distributor role for them, using his lethal kick as this taller defender. Young kid, 492k, and he's gone 31 where he was subbed. He was started as a sub in that game, so good points per minute. The 31 and 33% time on ground, nearly 1 point per minute is 1 point per percentage is, I don't know what the exact equation is, but yeah, good amount of scoring all 3 games so far. So 74 last week and 101 last week, where a lot of his points came from kick-ins. I think he had 9 kick-ins, and the news that McGovern is out for potentially a month or so, he's going to take that sort of role and take all the kick-ins there. So while I think it's a great pick and I think he can easily average over his price that figure at the moment, which would probably be about the 50 mark, I think he can easily average 75, if not on the high end of 85 at probably the top range. Just again, I would put a bit more sauce on that if it wasn't for West Coast. Again, they're not very fantasy relevant in terms of their whole team scoring. So, and to mention that this is their second score above a ton this year. So he's had the second highest score for them this year. So I'm not expecting hundreds at all. I would not be doing that. But again, I would be expecting 70s, 75s, maybe 85 at the top end. Does have a couple tougher matchups coming, so it'll be interesting to see if his role changes at all in the coming weeks. Is probably my only concern, particularly because now they are lacking that key defender in McGovern. Does a no, in McGovern is what I meant to say. Does that mean a Duggan needs to go back and do more defensive roles, which we have seen in the past, or does that mean Ryan Marrick has to play more of a defensive key defender, which will obviously not accumulate to many points for him? So there is some risk to it, but again, at that very minimal price tag, definitely a play. So if you're struggling to get to those top end players, he is definitely a halfway home for you. If you're looking to just trade up, 2 red dots or a red dot and a failed rookie, he is definitely one that I'd be willing to jump on, ride the cash generation, and then go from there. So this is a prime example of that halfway home where you found a cheap guy and you're looking to sort of move off 2 rookies, then yeah, jump on him. Perfect example. So that's where I'd be acceptable to do it. But if you're going from a Horn Francis down to a Merrick, that's a huge downgrade in my opinion. Even though you're going to get more cash, yes, but the points on the other side, I just don't see they're going to be there. The ceiling isn't there for Merrick, and I just think long term it's not going to be the smash pick that you're sort of expecting it to be. So, and it's a tough one for me because I'm not even looking at it because my forward line's too filled the way it is. I'm running Horn Francis, a Rankin, the 3X Dog Boys, and then I've got Davidson in there. If I trade in a Marrick, then I'm either moving off one of those guys and putting them on the bench. So that's the only example where I may move off a Horn Francis, but it's not something that I'm looking at doing. So I do think it's a great play. And like I said, I think it's more of a play that I do if it's 2 rookies up to him and then a downgrade on the other side. But I wouldn't be doing it from, a mid-price or as such. Yeah, so that's just where I sit. Liberatore, I just think you've missed the boat now. He's already gone up, nearly 100k. The other boys are going to be back within 3 or 4 weeks. And I Bont's, I think, 3 to 5 weeks' time. Let's have a look here. 3 to 5 weeks' time. Bontempelli and Adam Treloar's 4 to 6 weeks. So take 4 weeks' time. They're both back, and then Liberatore is probably back to his 90 ways, and he's going to be a trade out time. So it is a trade in that it has a limited lifespan. So please note that if you are trading him in. But again, he's not a must trader. He's still going to average 90s. but he's not going to have that ceiling that you normally expect from him that he's having at the moment when he's having a great year. So yeah, please keep that in mind. I'm just not looking at it. I just don't think it's worthwhile jumping on him at the stage. He's already highly priced. I think he's priced at about 100 at the moment, if not a little bit higher. So he doesn't have a huge amount more upside for me in that sense. So yeah, I don't think it's really that middle pick that you're looking for. Sinclair's still a great pick. Does have a tough matchup though this week, and I would be a bit concerned with a potential target on his back. You know, we saw how damaging he was last week. I'm sure other AFL coaches took notice, so he definitely probably has a bit of attention coming his way, whether that's from a Mead or even a Drew on him if he goes into the midfield a little bit. So definitely something to keep note of. But I still think he's a great trade-in pick. He's going to go up a bit in coin, but he are paying a little bit overs for what I expect him to average for the year. So you got to look more at the actual price that figure rather than what his his break even is or what his current average is. So I think it's a great pick, but yeah, he's a little bit down in the ways of what my ranking is in terms of defender picks. Simkin again, probably a bit downer on terms of who I'm trading in the forward line. I probably have him behind Rankin and Marek. I don't know where I currently sit with him. Yes, he's scoring well in terms of 125, 117. It's just the role that really concerns me. He's going to have low floors, but also he has shown a ceiling. So he's going to be that player that goes massive, but then also has a 60 in him because he's not playing in a midfield role, and he purely relies on a lot of marks in the forward 50, and obviously kicking a few goals so far this year, and also getting plenty of touches. So there is going to be times where they're just not getting the ball as much, and that could be potentially this week in a tougher matchup. So please keep that in mind. So I have him a bit further down than what others do, but yes, he is probably best 6 forward at the moment. Dacos, I'm not looking at trading him in just yet. I still think he has 2 tough matchups coming in Carlton. Probably gets a bit of attention from Hewitt. And obviously he's got the tag coming from James Jordan, which will be pretty damaging. So after that, then I'm all in. But until then, I'm not looking at it. Davidson, if you don't have him, it is still probably within reach, but it is just outside that 400k range. But with a negative 39 break even, I don't think you can say no to that. So yeah, make that a priority. Dane Zorko is doing my head in. I think this is where a lot of the fantasy community are divided at the moment, because the philosophy has always been aim for cash generation and aim for the value guy that's going to be best, or be in the top 6 or whatever it is. And Zorko is the complete opposite of that. He's at the top of the world where he's priced extremely highly, way above what we expect him to average for the year. Even if he averaged 110 for the year as he did last year, he's still 7 points above that. I think he's priced about 117, 118 at the moment. So he's gonna drop a little bit in coin, and it only takes 1 week. But looking at his run and looking at what he's been able to do so far this season, it's just so hard to deny at this stage. He's pretty much going at 30 disposals every single game, high marks, got a few tackles there, and he's kicking goals as well. He's going at 119 average so far this year. Incredible matchup to trade into, right? Richmond, he should go 130 quite simply if he doesn't get rested, which is definitely a big risk because, again, he is 36. If they're up by 30, 50, 60, 100 points, who knows, then there's definitely a high chance that they may just rest him. So keep that in mind when you trade him in. So I understand people trading him in. I've definitely looked at it myself because I do have the additional money to do that. But I'm sticking to my guns, sticking to my philosophies, and I'm going to be going with the value option at this stage, which I understand the value options aren't pretty at this stage because, again, there aren't many cheaper options to go besides the top sort of 6 guys. I think a lot of the top guys are already, if not overpriced, fairly priced is probably a good way to example. So I probably should explain who is in the top six defenders at the moment. So I've got Zorko probably number one, pretty straightforward. I've got Whitfield probably number two. You can throw in a Sheasel there, probably a bit further down. I do think he drops a little bit. I think he's still overpriced at this stage, playing the role he's in. I'm definitely missing someone else at this stage. I need to pull it up. I don't know why I haven't already done that. Give me a second, guys. Flanders, if you want to go there, I still think he has a little bit to drop as well. But then you've got guys like Messiah Wang and Malira and Sinclair definitely in there. So that's already six of them. Then you can throw in a Holmes, who's a little bit cheaper, who I'm looking at the moment. I think he probably replaces the likes of Flanders. I just don't know if Flanders quite has the ceiling that we're looking for at the moment. So, yeah, I just think that's sort of where the top six sits at the moment. So, it's a bit unknown, but also there's such a big gap between these top guys and the next best that if you're not going with these top line guys, it's hurting you every single week. So I can see the idea of why you're paying up for a Zorko, but I'm still just going to go with the value option. So if you have the money to do it, I'm not going to stop you, but it's not something that has typically been the fantasy winning pick. I remember my year, I was always targeting value, so that's just all I'm going to do. So I'm not looking at bringing in Zorko this week. Nathan O'Driscoll, again, if you're looking for that, this perfect sort of mid pricer pick, you know, if you're struggling for price, here's one definitely to jump on. A lot of the community has started him, so he's just absolutely killing it on that wing at the moment, so definitely worthwhile jumping on. Matt Rao is an interesting one again. 991k, so he's already priced at about 100. He's adding some more outside play to his game. You know, 5 marks on the weekend was pretty impressive from someone we're only expecting 0 or 1 throughout the game. So he's adding the outside game style to him, which is impressive to see. We know he's a tackling beast. We know he can collect the ball. It's just he's played against 2 very easy matchups. So I'm probably in the camp that I want to wait 1 more week, see how he goes up against a bit of a tougher matchup in Adelaide, who are probably not a hard matchup, I'll say. Probably a bit more of a neutral matchup. So I want to see how that goes. It's also like you're not getting him cheap, right? He's already priced at 100, so you're pretty much banking at that price that he's going to be in the top 8 midfielders, or at least the top 10. Or you at least want him to go 5 points above what he's priced at. You're pretty much paying up for him to be a keeper for you for a while. So that's where I get a bit uncomfortable. If he was cheaper, then absolutely I'd be jumping on. But I just think he's already priced so highly. And considering that you can get Brayshaw, who I'm pretty hot on, for like 5k more, I'd definitely be going at Brayshaw, who has the history of being the best 8 midfielder, over a Rao, who's definitely only shown 1 game sample of being able to do the outside stuff, which we've been crying out for. So again, I just don't think I can jump on that one just yet. Maxwell, I already said that I think it's a little bit overpriced for that sort of player as a small forward who could easily drop a 30 next week, and then his cash generations all dried up. So I'm not paying 416k for him at the stage. I'm just willing to let him go. I think we have other options that are better this week, so I'm just letting that one go. Toby Travalgia, again, he scored well, 63 is great, right? But again, break even to 14, I just think there are better options, like a Bryce should definitely be the one you're targeting if you're looking for a defender rookie, so definitely would be targeting that one instead. He's someone that we could potentially look at in a few weeks' time when his break even does drop lower if he can hold his spot, but it is a skeptical spot at best when it comes to his job security. So you're playing a bit of a risky game there. Tom de Koning, people trading him in is very unusual because I'm actually planning to trade him out as soon as next week even, because something that I should have mentioned in my strategy chat is that there are a plethora of guys at the moment that are potentially going to be coming in the next week or so, particularly this weekend. So just quickly scrolling down, you know, the injury list here. So Pitnet 1 week away next week. So if Pitnet is in next week, Tom de Koning is probably a must trade out. We've seen that he's sort of this 85-90 guy when Pitnet is in. And I have no doubt that they're going to bring Pitnet in pretty much straight away because, again, they're 0-3 to start this season. They're going to have to change something up, and that maybe they think that's the midfield and that's the ruckman to do something different in there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Pitnet come in straight into that side next week. So I'm making my plans to trade Tom de Koning as early as next week. So I'm making my trades based on allowing myself to do that next week. And that could be Tom de Koning to either a Marshall up to the top and just be done for the year. You know, just allowing those two big rucks to go out for the rest of the year in Cherry and Marshall. Or I could even downgrade a Tom de Koning to a Briggs, who's probably going to bottom out and cash this weekend. So I'm allowing my money to do both at this stage because I want to see what Briggs can offer. I haven't been huge on him all preseason. I know a few other people are, but he's 150k cheaper than what he was at the start of the year. So I can only imagine that he is definitely a value play and a bit of a halfway home that we can treat for a little while just to get more cash generation. So I'm definitely looking at both, but yeah, definitely something that I'd be considering next week to be locking in a Tom de Koning trade. It is a tricky one because it's not a must trade, right? You can always hold Tom de Koning for one more week. He probably won't drop too much coin. He's just going to stall his cash generation and probably put up just a standard 80, 90, depending on who's rucking against, right? I probably should just quickly check who he is rucking against. It is Eagles. So, in saying that, it is a very good matchup to be against. So, you can probably hold it for 1 week after that, but definitely in round 6 you're trading him out. So in the next fortnight you're trading him out either way. So make your plans now. I would not be trading him in. Just quickly scrolling down the rest of the list. Darcy Parish is a test, so he could come back in. I don't know who that would affect too much, but if you have a Caldwell, apparently he's out anyways. So yeah, that's definitely probably a must trade out at this stage. But maybe a merit effects if you have him. I don't think it's hugely advantage relevant at the stage, but just keep that in mind. Hayden Young coming back into the side, who that affects. I don't think it affects O'Driscoll because, again, O'Driscoll is playing as a pure wingman at the stage. He hasn't had any CBA usage in the last fortnight, so at most it just affects the best 22, so it just squeezes in a little bit more, pushes O'Driscoll a bit more on the outside. So, yeah, just be concerned about that. Same with Sean Darcy. He may come back in this week, so that could have some pretty big implications on their midfield. So be mindful of that. Sean Manor may come back in this week, as I've mentioned. Same with Tom de Koning. Oh, sorry, not Tom de Koning. Who am I talking about? Tom Stewart. He may come back this week. So, point is, there's so many people coming back this week that it could be a bit of a shake-up in the fantasy community. Probably not something we haven't seen before, but it just seems like there's a lot of big-name players that are coming back this week, particularly, that could make a few things uncomfortable for players next week. So I definitely like to keep an eye on all this. George Wardlaw is probably another one that you got to keep an eye on with Tom Powell if you have him. Probably not enough to scare you off and trade Tom Powell, even though he had a poor game on the weekend. I'd still back Tom Powell in to go well. Another one is Zach Butters potentially coming back in this week. What is that doing to Horn Francis and Rosie? Do either of them spend more time forward potentially? So yeah, there's just so many issues that could arise from all these additional players coming in that just makes our teams a bit more uncertain when it comes to next week. So I'm trying to do the best I can when I'm planning to have more issues coming next week. So I just think it's something that you should be considering as well. I think that was about it when it comes to the people that are coming in. Probably should also quickly mention that, the likes of Callum Mills, Kitty Coleman, and also Mateus Filippo are still a month away or so. I think we're hoping that Mills is going to be back this time, but he had another setback, so he's still another 2-3 weeks away, unfortunately. Yeah, that's about it. So back to the fantasy. yeah, I wouldn't be trading in Tom De Koning this week. I'd definitely be going down to a Briggs at this time, just because he's shown he's down now to do something. He's pretty much bottomed out in coin. He's got a heartbreaking of 130, but he's got West Coast this week, so he could easily hit that quite comfortably. So I would not be going Tom De Koning. I'd be going Briggs at this stage if you're jumping off Ruckman. Jake Saligo is someone I've heavily considered trading in this week because he's been killing it so far this season. He's someone that I've looked at in the past. I owned him last year, but he can go through these patches where he goes absolutely amazing and then just drops off, and then he's back to being an 80 guy. So it doesn't fill me with confidence, but here's probably another example of that halfway home where I can't exactly get to those 1 million guys, but his price just in that range where I can get to him, and he'd be a potential hold for the next sort of until the mid-season buys at least, if not for the rest of the year, if he can continue to go well. He's got a good run. It's something that I've looked at. It's not amazing, but it's definitely worthwhile for the next 2 weeks. Tougher one against GWS. The other thing is that he's not going to get a tag. When you've got the likes of Dawson and Rankin next to you, you're never going to get cobble any sort of attention. So he's always going to be that guy that can run freely, get amongst the scrapping. So I think he's a worthwhile pick in that sense. There's probably a few others that I have before him. Maybe Hewitt is an example of that. If you want to go there, similarly priced, probably a bit more secure. But yeah, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, these sort of guys, and I can't recommend other people trade him in, even though I may look at doing something similar myself this week. Jake Bowie, I hate this pick. I do, because I don't know why. It doesn't fill me with confidence, but he's proven me wrong every single week so far this season, just by averaging 92. He looked really thirsty on the weekend. He wanted the ball in his hands and he was running in great spots to get it. So I cannot knock anyone for jumping on this pick. It is a great halfway home if you can't get up to the top guys. Bowie is probably the only one that I'd be going to at that cheaper mid-price range in the defensive line. So yeah, that's my opinion. That he just looks great. Harvey Langford, I spoke about him a little bit in my yesterday's video. I heavily looked at trading him in because I do think he's going to be a quite vital rookie for us if he can keep his spot. But I do have some concerns that he may struggle to hold his spot with the likes of maybe Rivers going back into the midfield with Caleb Windsor back in the side, so that shuffles the magnets a little bit more, pushing Langford back out of the side potentially. And the same with Pickett coming back into the side. He obviously has a little bit of midfield time as well. So there's just a few magnets moving around that just gives me a little bit of uncertainty around what his job security is. We've already seen that he started as a sub in round 1, didn't play in round 2, and obviously only played 66% in last week's game. So I have called my Jets on him a little bit, and he's not currently in my plans, but definitely watching and waiting to see what's happening with him. So yeah, I think he's shown that he can be a quite impactful player and shown that he has scoring potential. So if he can keep his role and have this high CBA usage, then he is definitely one that we want to target at some stage. Bailey Smith, if you don't have him, just grab him. Pretty straightforward. Max Holmes is someone that I'm hugely looking at this week, particularly if Sam De Koning is someone that we must trade out. I'd be going straight to Max Holmes because he's in that bracket where he is the cheapest of that top line guys, and he's going to be close enough, if not inside the top 6 when it comes to the defenders this year. So I'm looking at probably grabbing him because he is that 100k cheaper than a lot of the other guys that I'm looking at with a Sinclair or a Whitfield. He's 200k cheaper than Azorco. So here's that perfect example of going for the value option rather than going to the top range. So I think he just has the capacity to go well. He would have been averaging quite high if he didn't get tagged in round 2. Yes, he's a tag target as well. I don't see a tag coming his way in the next 2 matchups particularly. Maybe cops a bit of attention from the likes of Nash or maybe a Finn. I don't think they're going to use Finn in the midfield, so that's probably unlikely. So maybe a bit of a watch on Nash. Again, not next to 2 matchups. Maybe a Bedford. Just trying to think, would Bedford be better on someone else? Probably not. So yeah, maybe he gets a bit of attention there. Drew. But these are the things that we're just going to have to take as they come. The run isn't amazing, but it's not the worst. And when we're thinking about holding someone for the rest of the year, I'm not looking at the run too much. It's still a long season to go, so he's going to have good matchups, he's going to have bad matchups, no matter how you look at it. So he's still got plenty of good matchups to come. So I'm keen on just holding him for the rest of the year, as long as he can increase his scoring potential. And obviously, Chris Scott does scare the shit out of me. We know what he can do, but I'd hope that Holmes is not in that category of being able to be subbed or be managed as such when they're winning as much. They don't look like the powerhouse that they have been in the last couple of years. That I could be fooled. But yeah, obviously they have lost 2 of their first 3 games so far this year. So I'm pretty hot on Holmes. I was pretty hot on him in the preseason, but did get scared off of him just with a few other things going on at the time. So yeah, I think he definitely has some range to go up. He hasn't gone up any coins so far this year, so he's still priced around that 94 that he started the season as. I still think he has probably 5 or 6 points to put on top of that. So I definitely think he's the number 1 defender target if you're looking to go up to those sort of top line guys, in my opinion, but I could be persuaded elsewhere. Hugo Garcia, I don't think he's a trade-in at this stage, even though he did go amazing on the weekend. That's something that I haven't mentioned. I do apologise if anyone traded him out off of my analysis last week. But again, I didn't know that Jack Steele would be laid out. If I'd known that Steele was going to be out, I'd be an absolute no. Obviously, his job security would have been massive, and he's shown that he's able to score when he does have the opportunity. So fingers crossed that with this score and with his impact on the game, that he is no longer going to be the sub for them. I'm not 100% sure what's happening with Jack Steele at this point in time, but I think he should be good to go this week. I did hear that he was running laps though at training, so not the best sign. So just wait and see what happens with teams tomorrow night. But yeah, if you have him, hold on to him. If you don't have him, I wouldn't be trading into him just because he can be fringe best 22 in the low time on ground. Still doesn't give me a huge amount of confidence. And you got to remind yourself that game was against Richmond, so obviously put maybe 30, 40 points on top of that as to be expected. He does have a couple of tough matchups coming his way, so keep that in mind. I don't think he's trade in. Cav Daniel, trade him in. Don't know him. Pretty straightforward. Luke Jackson, I would not be doing it this week because Sean Darcy may be back and he may be playing a full-time forward role again, so definitely don't do that. Will Ashcroft's another one that you could be looking at in terms of like a medium price player that has some scope to go up this year. Obviously, a lot of people were hot on him to start the season. I probably wasn't in that category, safe to say. I just didn't see the upside as much. He has gone pretty poorly to start the season with a 66 and a 90. Well, 66 is the only poor score. 90 came up against West Coast, probably a bit unders for what you expected. The 115 against the Cats was definitely enjoyable and he looked really nice. So he's definitely one that I'd encourage people to jump on if you are keen on him or if you have been keen on him to start the season. His CBAs have increased slightly this week, but I think that was because Neil was spending a little bit more time forward just with a bit of attention. So I don't think that's something that's going to stick and be true for the entirety of the year. So keep that in mind. I still think he is at best this 4th midfielder for them. So I don't see a huge amount of upside to him at his current price tag, but he's someone that with his run, I can show you that here. It's not amazing, but it's still very good. You could be someone that you could just hold until the early season buys, or at least until he makes a little bit of coin, and then when your team's in a better position, then you can be a bit more luxurious and trade him out at that stage. So definitely is someone that you could consider if you want to go there. Where was I at? I'll just do a few more guys and then I'll cut it off. I'm already been on 54 minutes. A bit of a longer one for you guys this week, just because I didn't feel like I gave enough. Bailey Humphrey, I wouldn't be doing. I think he's more of a super coach pick, and I just think it's got like Sam Flanders was low time on ground last week. I think he spends a bit more time in midfield, which pushes Humphrey a bit more forward. So I just wouldn't be doing that. I think we have other better options. Like I said, America is a much safer pick at 30k cheaper. I'd definitely be going there instead. Whitfield, if I had to go with someone that was a bit more expensive, I definitely would be going with Whitfield, I think. The run is amazing. He's a little bit cheaper than Nazorko. He's younger than Nazorko, so I don't think he's a risk of being subbed or being rested at any point. But he does come with a similar risk of injury, so you can't win them all. But yeah, I'd definitely be going a Whitfield over a Zorko at this stage if you had to pick one. Josh Dunkley, I don't mind him, but again, you're paying up top dollar for someone. Yeah, you're paying up for someone top dollar. So I'd probably look for a bit more value, but again, they do have a really nice run, so I'm not going to stop you if you have the extra bit of coin. I would at least try and at least leave yourself with 100 to 150k if you can. If it doesn't leave you at least that, I think you're stretching too far, and you should search for value a little bit more because you want to make sure you have enough of your trades next week. If in case anything bad happens. So yeah, always try and plan ahead as best you can. But I think we're getting into a bit of the realms of some unique picks here. So I'll quickly just finish off the video with summarizing my top 5 picks for each line, as I like to do. So trade-ins for the defenders, I've got Holmes at number 1, particularly if you're looking for the top end guys. So I think spending the extra, saving that extra 200k, I think he's around that sort of top 6 pick for the year. So I think he's a solid pick there that has a bit more of, has the only bit of value in that sort of range at the moment. So definitely looking at him, number 1. Whitfield, number 2. Zorko, number 3. Then I've got the likes of Sinclair and Wangani Malira at number 4, sort of side by side. Both of them are interchangeable in my opinion. I think both of them are, again, top 6. But then if you're looking for a cheaper guy, you can go with a Bowie. I think he's sort of the only one that you're looking at. If you want to get risky, you could go with a Noble. I didn't mention him in this video, but he went well on the weekend with like a 119 or something like that. But again, he hasn't shown the consistency of that role in that scoring ability previously, so I'm skeptical to jump on him after one game size, so keep that in mind. If you're looking for a midfielder, I probably should bring that up on here if I can. I am particularly looking at Brayshaw as my number 1 pick. He's dropped, I think, 80k or 60k, something like that. He has got a great run to go. Put up his first ton for the year against West Coast. Obviously, a nice matchup. He just needs to find his marks. And this is something that I spoke about in the preseason, that Fremantle are using their hands a lot more than they are kicking now. Trying to play this fast game style, slingshot style. So he's not going to get as many marks as what we're sort of used to, but I still think he is in the realm of being a top 8 midfielder that I'm willing to pay up for that cheaper price, where he's priced at about 100 at the moment. I think he can push his price back up to 110. I think it's probably going to be as cheap as he sort of gets for a long time in the year. So great run, as I've mentioned. Got Richmond next week, but again, you can always trade him into next week if that's your plan. So chasing that matchup, so definitely don't mind that them there. But here's my number 1 trade in for the midfielders. Number 2, I've gone with Tom Green. I think he is prime for the picking at the moment. Again, very similar good run. He's got the Eagles this week, then Saints, then Crows. Priced very similarly at that sort of underpriced premium range, where they have probably 5 or 10 points to put on top of their price at the moment. So really just targeting that value. But that's probably it when it comes to that premium value. I didn't really go searching too much further. If you're really looking for a bit more value, or even can't get quite to those guys, a Saligo is someone that, as I mentioned, he's going great. Again, could be one that you can just hold to the mid-season buys and evaluate then. He's obviously never going to get a tag. He's going at 113 in the first 5 weeks. Obviously, very easy matchups, but I think that the run doesn't stop there. He's got the Suns this weekend, so easy matchup. Cats the week after, again, easy matchup, and it doesn't stop there. So, yeah, he's definitely one that you can go if you can't quite get to those guys. Hewitt is another one that is someone I looked at, but again, you're locking that one in tomorrow night, so it's a bit skeptical. He's going at 112 so far this season. Again, one super easy matchup, and one tough matchup, so he's just doing it whenever it is required. The run is pretty solid. probably for the next 5 weeks, particularly. So definitely one that you could jump on. A little bit more expensive than a Soligo. If you're really looking for value, like I said, a Ashcroft at that 840k. But besides that, I couldn't really find too much more value below that sort of mark that really gave me a huge amount of confidence. So here's probably where I finish off. I wouldn't be paying up too much. I wouldn't be paying any less than that. If you don't have a Nod, definitely go there. But I think most of the comp have him. If you really want to go to a Macintosh, I'm not going to convince anyone to do it. I regret trading him out. But yeah, that's that. But so yeah, that's the midfielders. We'll go to rucks. Pretty straightforward. If you're playing with the rucks this week, then it is definitely going to either Royal Marshall, paying up top dog, just being done for first of the year, or you're going to a Briggs, who is dropping in coin. He's dropped 131k so far this season. Yes, high break even, but has a super easy matchup. Should hit close to that figure, probably not quite that figure, but he will only drop maybe 10, 20k more, and then you sort of just ride him through, and you just take the big hit. Yeah, so I think that's definitely one there. If you want to get really risky, then you could jump on Sean Darcy to start like straight away when he comes back from injury, but again, he's already priced at pretty highly, and he's obviously coming back from an injury with his knees and his hamstrings and whatnot. So yeah, be careful with that one. But besides that, we'll move on to the forwards. And the forwards are pretty straightforward. I have Rankin at number 1. Obviously, that is pretty straightforward. His keeper for the year. Ryan Marrick is number 2. Has that sort of halfway home. A lot of people are looking to jump off to rookies, so he's an easy one you can jump on there. Particularly if you're running a bit of a weaker forward line, he just slots into that line pretty simply. Then I've got the likes of Simkin at number 3 there. Cheaper guy, sort of top 6 at the moment, but he's going to be fringe top 6 when it comes to DPP. And that's probably about it. If you don't have any of the X-Dog boys, then I'll probably just finish that off. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this longer episode today. Apologies if it doesn't suit your style, but yeah, I felt like there's a lot that we need to discuss today, as this is a pretty vital time, the last of the fix-up trades for the season before we really start to get into the upgrade season next week. So make your plans, plan ahead, and do the best you can when it comes to this weekend, because the real stuff starts next week. So get best of luck for the weekend, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video for the captains. Catch you then. Bye.